Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
Hey, what is up guys? Today I'm actually doing a non-spoiler review of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 from the PS5. Everything that's captured that you see is from my PlayStation. I have since 100% of the game, but I will not be covering the spoilers until Monday just to give people a chance to get the game and catch up and stuff like that. So this is for all the people that want my thoughts but not necessarily break into any of the story beats or spoilers. So I will actually say one thing off the bat. I loved this game, so there may be a little bit of biases in here. I actually liked it more than the first one. Primarily, that's probably because like Venom is like one of my top 5 favorite characters of like all time in any kind of fandom. So having him be included in the game is what I was missing from the first one, really. And I know that he requires like more build up than some other characters in the Rogues Gallery, but for me in particular, the story beats in this were pretty well on point. It's insane because Insomniac does things in a different way that they did in the past game, where they'll take pre-existing characters and they'll kind of shift up the origins a little bit, and they'll kind of mix it up and mix and match like characters and stuff like that, and they'll actually throw you into the fold of this story in this closed ecosystem to where you remember everything from the comics as you're watching, but you're not necessarily like looking forward toward the same beats because they want to keep it fresh. So there's certain characters who play different roles in this game. Gameplay wise, I will say that I had a lot of fun playing this one, especially with getting rid of that wheel from the first game, and now we have just the preset R1 plus button. So it's not spoiling anything in this gameplay footage that I'm showing you, but you can actually get a sense of like how the game actually plays and flows. It's pretty similar to the last game, albeit with a little bit of fun mixed in there. There's some new moves and new ways to actually utilize these gadgets in ways that like I didn't think was possible before. And that leads into my next point, which is traversal. So traversal does feel a lot, I guess, tighter in this game than it did in the last. There's more control options. There's obviously still banking and stuff like that that actually helps you cut corners. But the web gliding wings I used a lot more than I thought I was going to do. They are required for some portions of the game, but to get around the city super fast, I found myself like not even fast traveling until I was in the end game, when I was just like tidying up and completing all the districts and doing all the side event stuff. That's when I actually started really utilizing fast travel. But throughout my entire playthrough, I literally just web zipped around and used the web wings, and there's a lot of things that you can actually unlock in the game that actually make your traversal a lot faster and a lot easier through your playthrough. So if you're worried about like, is the city bigger, is it harder to get around, what about the fast travel, you have to actually unlock the fast travel. I don't think that's counting as a spoiler, but you have to complete goals within each district, and the second tier of that goal always unlocks fast travel for that particular district, and usually the third part is like hero coins and stuff like that. But like I said, I didn't really need to use it that often in my playthrough. I'm not sure if you're going to want to utilize that. I know a buddy of mine that played it, did a lot of the side missions intermittently between the story, but I just blasted right through the story and then I did the side stuff afterwards, which was pleasantly surprising, as I will get into on Monday's spoiler video. But beyond that, the characterization in this is pretty good. I will say that I was a little bit taken aback. I don't want to say disappointed, but it was a little bit weird how Miles' character was like being propped up as a main Spider-Man while being relegated to the sidelines almost the entire game. It's not like that big of a deal, but the difference in missions is super apparent. Like when you're Peter, like the missions are always like super important, and when you're Miles, there's a lot of missions that are just like fluff. And things that are just super like not really involving him within the story. I don't even think that like he plays that much of an integral role until like really the end. So it's kind of shoehorned in there, which is a shame because I like Miles as a character and I like playing as him, and I thought he should have had more stuff to do. He does have some good story beats, and he does tie up his like storylines from the last game, from the Miles Morales game, and technically Spider-Man, the first one, but I do think that they could have done more to intermittent his character in there. He comes off sometimes as a bit whiny, Meanwhile, Peter is looking at him like he is like the next Spider-Man and kind of in awe of him as like a teacher kind of should be. But he really is not leading up to that, in my opinion, in the game. And it's not because of Miles as a character, it's just because the way the writing is, it's so focused on the tight-knit story between like Peter and the characters that are around him, and obviously Venom is more closely aligned with Peter than he is Miles, that I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much to avoid spoilers, but I thought there could have been more there, if that makes sense. And but Peter's story was pretty great. He does have some downtime moments as well, but like I said, it's nowhere near on the boring level that like Miles would be. And a lot of the side missions in this game are boring. There are 2 like main storyline, story beat side missions that you get for each character, like 1 for each. And those are pretty good and interesting and actually lead into possible DLC for this game in the future, if not setting up future villains for next iterations of games, which I'll talk about on Monday. But when it comes to the actual missions themselves, like, they were very tedious and very boring. It was the only thing that literally drove down the game for me, especially like certain missions like the collecting data from flying through the drones, like jet streams. Like, that was so annoying, unbearably so at some points. There are other side missions in there that like I don't want to like get into because I want you to discover them for yourselves, but most of them are just like there for filler, and they're not even as good, I would say, as side missions in the first game, if that makes sense. And you can definitely tell this game was built off of the skeleton of the first game. That's quite apparent because all of the same bugs and all of the same glitches that were apparent in the first game are still apparent in this game, meaning that it's probably the same underlying code, obviously, with just like, you know, refreshed assets and whatnot. For example, I got a glitch where if I'm trying to select my costume, it would just be like a white cube, and then if you actually selected it, like that white cube would be the one flying around and fighting throughout the city, which was, albeit hilarious, but like it's still an annoying glitch to have. I also had a glitch happen to me where all of my DLC costumes that I purchased were not available. They were just like gone, and all of my points for my my gadgets and like all that stuff was all reset, and like all the points were still there to apply, but they were automatically reset. Like, I never applied them into anything, and this is like 20 something hours into the game, so I clearly was filling out the trees, which was a little bit annoying. I had some other like graphical bug issues, like during the main menu screen. Sometimes Peter, sometimes Miles would just be a floating head and show up without a body, which was again hilarious. There's the normal in-game clipping stuff where like enemies get stuck in corners and just like kind of glitch out there, and things like that. There's a bunch of little glitches here and there. Some audio bugs where sometimes you won't hear like stuff, but I don't want to make it sound like it's like a huge buggy mess. There are bugs that are persistent, and the thing that's frustrating to me is like those same bugs were still persistent in the last game. So I just wished that Insomniac would have worked on that a little bit more to kind of like push through that, and you would think a company that's like working on a big title like this would be doing that, and hopefully in the next game they actually do fix that or even patch it out of this game. But that's just like what happens. I've heard some people's progress were reset. That didn't happen to me personally, so I can't really speak on that. But beyond that, there are going to be bugs and glitches, and you most likely are probably going to experience them. I know that 90% of the bugs that I even heard about, I did experience myself, which I usually doesn't happen to me. For example, when I played Cyberpunk, I didn't hardly see any of the bugs that people mentioned, but that's probably because I played the PS5 version first. I had the PS4 version, I just waited till the PS5 version came out. But so I tend to like look for that kind of stuff. A good buddy of mine is like a developer, and like he used to be head QA for quality assurance for these gaming companies, and he still works in the same area, but now he does code writing and development. Hearing about the stuff from him is like seeing like they didn't even touch that stuff from the last game, which is a little concerning, but it's playable. The game's fine. Like, I did experience 2 crashes. I don't want to say hard crashes because my PlayStation didn't shut down, but I did experience some crashes where it would crash me out of missions, specifically later side missions that involve symbiotes. But beyond that, it would restart me at the beginning. It just lost my progress that I was making already during that mission, which was a little bit annoying. But the gadgets are actually really fun in this. You can see them on the screen. I don't think this is a spoiler because it has nothing to do with stories or anything. But now, like, from specking them up and stuff. You can like shoot webs, and sometimes they have like electrical beams where you max amount attached to them, or you can loop multiple enemies together and group them together to do attacks on them, which is almost necessary because sometimes some enemies such as like the symbiotes can hoard, whereas the hunters will, a lot of them will have like close range characters, but then there's a lot of like sniping going on in the background that you have to like take care of, or else like your health will be gone. The skill trees are there. The suit trees are also there, which you can actually enhance the suits. And some of them are like necessity. Like I ignored one of them for a while, but the one, because I was focused on like health and attack and stuff like that and like speed, but the one that I didn't work on to focus is what I needed the most, because I beat the entire story mode with like one focus bar, which is insane. And then like I didn't actually unlock the other 2 focus bars until after the end game content. So I was like, what am I doing? Because like my developer friend, who also 100% of the game, was talking about it. He was like, yeah, you got to do that first. And I was like, this is insane, because like I could have been healing a lot more, or I could have been doing a lot more finishers, because there are hordes in this. So that was pretty fun on that end. When it comes to replayability, it's like now we're just waiting for DLC or playing on harder difficulties, I guess, because I honestly don't want to do all that side stuff again on harder difficulties. So if I do play the game on harder difficulties, it's literally just going to be to see the story again, because I don't even think you get trophies for doing it on the harder difficulties. It's just, you just have to beat the game. So there's not much replay value there until DLC is announced or comes forward. Overall, I had a lot of fun with the game. I really, like I said, I wish that like Miles had a little bit more involvement than he did. I do wish they spent some more time with certain story beats, because there are some things that like they don't really let breathe. They just kind of move on to the next thing because everything happens so fast in the game. This is a little bit faster paced than the last game, I will say, and especially because some of the crime events you can take care of a lot faster than you could in the last game. For example, when you're doing the car chases with the trucks, like you used to have to like do a bunch of stuff like flipping around the car to get enemies out. It would take a couple minutes. Now you literally just hit triangle over it, press square once, and he automatically like stops the truck. It's like a lot faster than it was before. So that is a nice little quality of life thing. So hopefully they actually work on the glitches and bugs a little bit more, so that it's a smoother experience overall. But the web gliding always feels great. The parts of Queens and Brooklyn that are unlocked, as somebody who lived in New York for a decade in New York City. I lived in Queens and in Manhattan, and I worked in parts of Brooklyn, so like it's not a one-to-one, obviously. There's a lot of smaller scale, but I found myself going to old spots that I loved going to, like Gantry Park, where me and my wife would go play like Pokemon Go. A third of the size of Gantry Park, and it's obviously missing like the licensed stuff like the Coca-Cola sign, because in Gantry Park there's a giant Coca-Cola sign that lights up. That wasn't there, but there were definitely things that I recognized as Gantry Park, and I think that goes without saying throughout the rest of the game. Central Park is obviously way smaller than normal Central Park. Everything's kind of like toned down. But it's better this way because you can get around a lot more. There's a lot more building diversity in this than I noticed. In the first game, I saw a lot of samey buildings, but there's a lot more recognizable stuff in this. And I will talk about certain buildings that showed up in this game that weren't in the last game in my spoiler review on Monday. So overall, I definitely enjoyed the game. If I was going to give it a rating, I would give it like a solid 8.5 out of 10. Possibly an 8. Like, I think that they need to work on some bugs. The story beats like were pretty tight, and I really love the cinematics. I really love the story. I love the combat. I love the traversal. The costumes were amazing. Okay, not amazing because like a lot of the costumes are costumes that are returning from the 2 previous games, and there's actually some that don't return, and there are a few that are new. But the ones that are new are like chef's kiss, man. They're awesome. A lot of that stuff is like later game stuff, so you kind of either want to do side stuff before you do story stuff, or just bang through the story and then use those costumes for all the story stuff. But however you play the game is like how you play the game. I do hope that I can use the suits a little bit more. There's nothing for me to do left in the game because it's 100%ed, so all I can do is like really go around and wait for crimes to happen and just like, I guess, fight or swing around. So I am kind of thinking about playing it on another difficulty just to see it. And actually all of this gameplay footage is from another game, my second playthrough. But I want to know what you think in the comment section down below. How do you feel about this review? Did you actually play any of Spider-Man yet? Have you not got it yet? Are you looking forward to getting it? Any thoughts are always welcome. I don't do the polls from my community tab on my reviews just because like they're unrelated. I don't want to have to do like a Soul Calibur poll on like a Spider-Man video, if that makes sense. So today's video and Monday's video aren't going to feature polls, but then next Friday's is going to have another poll. So I'll look forward to seeing that. And like I always say, guys, please like the video if you like it, and then always like join the Discord if you want to come and play a bunch of games with us and like just hang out and chill and have fun. Any and all thoughts are always welcome. And as I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.